All right, it's about that time of year when it's time to start thinking about putting in your spring food plots. A lot of you guys have already bought your seed probably, but I wanted to give you some ideas of what I do and what I plan on doing this year. For spring, I'm going to wait since we have so much rain lately. I'm going to wait a little while and wait for hot weather. So I'm putting in some drought tolerant, heat tolerant plants, and I'm going to drill them right through my fall food plots from last year. Now, I brought in this cowpea as a demonstration. This is a cowpea that never got browsed by a deer. The cowpeas that I have out in the field don't look like this. They're pretty much mostly gone. You can see little ones about this high every so often. Most of them, they got eaten. Now, this one I put as a cover crop in my garden, and I just turned them all in. I saved this one to show what a great plant this is. This was planted in September last year, and they're just terrific. I'm sold on well, I'll get to the cowpeas in a minute, but I'm sold on these Austrian winter peas. They grow great, they last all winter, and they come up fantastic in the spring again and begin to grow. And you can feed deer that way in the fall, winter, spring, all the way up till fawning time. They're having fawns now and lactating. So right now they have this beautiful, rich, nutrient forage for their fawning and lactating. So whenever I mix a seed mix, I like to have a legume component. It's very important for fixing nitrogen. I like to have a broadleaf component and a grass. Now, there's different benefits to each type of plant, part of which is just the structure of the root. Some have, like a buckwheat has a shallow root that's kind of bushy. So does things like sunflowers, same type of thing. They have a bushy root with a bit of a taproot. Grass is a shallow root. And then some of my broadleafs like chicory and t-raptor and other brassicas, they have of course a really nice taproot. So let's go through what my mix is going to be. And if you wait till the end, I'm going to give you the secret sauce to spring food plots that's going to solve all your problems. So watch the whole thing. Okay, now we're going to go this year with, and this might change depending on availability of seed. Right now I can't get sunflowers, but I'm working on it. Sunflowers didn't take last year. Mine didn't grow at all because there was so much rain. Okay, so we're going with 40% cowpeas, and we're going with 25% hairy vetch. Okay, that's going to be my legume sector, okay? Then on broadleafs, we're going to go buckwheat, and I'm going with 20% buckwheat. Now this is based on 100 pounds, so you'd have 40 pounds, 25 pounds, etc. But we're not going to plant 100 pounds to the acre. We're probably going to plant 60 to 70 pounds per acre. So the next thing is t-raptor, okay? You don't need much of that because it's a very small seed. We're going to go with 4% t-raptor. 3% chicory. And My grass component is going to be oats. And well, you know, that's a little bit of a filler, but everything in here is highly palatable to deer. So then sunflowers. Okay, so we got 3% sunflower, if I can get them. Let's see, do I have everything? Chicory, oats, that's going to be 10%. Spring oats, okay? All right, so why use a mix like this? Why not just, I don't know, go down and get some soybeans and plant those? Everybody loves soybeans, right? Well, the trouble with soybeans is that deer won't leave them alone. And it's been my experience that they will not grow because deer just hammer them. If you're in a place where you're planting a small field and there's deer around, they nip them off, and they're not very resilient to browse pressure. If they come up like this, deer takes that terminal off, they don't grow anymore. Or even if they do make it and the deer are hammering them, they're not very good at resprouting. So usually they just get wiped out, so it's a waste of time and money. They're very expensive. So a few years back, I tried cowpeas, and I really thought that cowpeas would not grow this far north, but I planted cowpeas in southern New York State. They came in beautiful. They are very resistant to browse pressure. They get chewed off, and they have a lot of nodes, so they will shoot out more leaves. They look a little ragged from deer eating them, but they keep alive and they keep putting out new growth all the time and keep feeding deer, which is way better, in my opinion, than soybeans. Soybeans are great. They're the candy food for deer if you have room to put them. Okay, hairy vetch is one of the best nitrogen fixers out there, and it's very easy to terminate when you want to plant your next crop. Now, this is summer, and at the end of summer in September, I'm going to want to terminate this one way or the other. Either the deer are going to terminate it, I'm going to roll it down, or I can put cows on there to eat it down, or you know, sheep or whatever. Livestock is fantastic for terminating your summer crop and get ready for the next crop, because it turns everything into manure. Okay, so everything gets rotated right back into the soil and ready to use in the next crop. Now my broadleaves, the benefits to buckwheat. Buckwheat is pretty drought tolerant. It likes hot weather. In fact, it doesn't really do well if you plant it too early, so you need to get it down when it's really hot. The soil temperatures ought to be well above 65 degrees, and the daytime temperatures should be up to 80 degrees. Now, we had one day that a couple weeks ago that was 80 degrees, and then it went right back down to freezing. So if I would have had buckwheat in, it would have stunted them. So buckwheat is excellent for scavenging nutrients. It's easy to kill once you're done with it. Grows kind of fast, has a short growing season. It attracts pollinators, so your beneficial insects are in there. And keep in mind that if we're growing plants that attract both deer and turkey, you want lots of insects for poults to eat. And we are always looking to help out pollinators, okay? T-raptor is a cross between a rape and a turnip, and it creates a very palatable leaf, more so than turnips, and it doesn't waste a lot of energy on a bulb. It has like a little carrot root. Kind of looks like a dandelion leaf. Chicory, same thing. Nice leaf, very palatable, pretty drought tolerant because it puts a nice carrot root down, and it goes down a couple feet looking for moisture, and it can get moisture when it's dry. Sunflowers, great pollinator, attractor, looks great in the field, produces seeds that everything eats. Birds eat that, and you'll find that a lot of times if I'm in bear country and I have sunflowers, the bears will come in and just take all the heads off the sunflowers, get some of that. And of course, everything eats them. Like if you have a field of sunflowers, these pure sunflowers, you'll have turkeys in there, you'll have bears, and you'll have deer. Deer will eat the leaves off the sunflower and then eat the seeds as well. I always like to have a grass component, because a grass component, I won't get off too far into details on carbon nitrogen ratios, but you want some plants that have a high carbon nitrogen ratio so that it stores nutrients, takes up nutrients that are like nitrogen that are being produced up here, stores them on the surface of the soil, and as that rots down, oats are an annual, so it'll rot down and the nutrients will be on the surface where the next crop can use it. Let's see here. Yeah, speaking of carbon nitrogen ratio, the hairy vetch, that could be planted in the fall. In fact, it's going to be in my fall mix because it'll overwinter, start growing in the spring. It's not as attractive to deer as some of these other plants, which can be a good thing because you don't want the deer to wipe you completely out. But they will eat it, and hairy vetch, like I said, good nitrogen fixer, and it rots down real easy. It has a very low carbon to nitrogen ratio, which basically means that it's very lush, and when you kill it, it goes back to the soil very quickly and nutrients are very quickly available. Where with stalky plants like the sunflowers and the oats, it takes longer for them to rot, and that way you have sort of a steady supply of nutrients. Okay, so that's what I have. These are their percentages that can be adjusted up or down. And so let me see if I can find in my notes here some more things to talk about. So cowpeas, I'm just crazy about these cowpeas because they shade out weeds. Deer love them. They'll fix about 100 pounds of nitrogen per acre. Hairy vetch will do more than that. It breaks down easily. It'll grow in hot weather. Tolerates poor soils. Okay, it'll tolerate drought. And it's a good pollinator. It has a nice flower on it. And it holds insects. If you have a successful planting of this, and you walk out there and just be still for a moment, you'll hear all kinds of insects buzzing around and flying. Birds will be coming in there and feeding on those, and there's a lot going on inside of one of these plantings where you can just feel the life in it. You know, where say if you just planted some spring oats for the summer or something like that, or just buckwheat, for instance, it's just not quite as interesting. There's different heights too, and different leaf shapes, so that when you have different leaf shapes and structure above the ground as well as below the ground, you can crowd a lot more biomass into that same acre. So cowpeas have a soybean type leaf. It's kind of triangular and it's big, so that absorbs most of the canopy. Okay, hairy vetch is a vine with small leaves coming out the sides, and that'll find its way around. It'll climb up the sunflowers and find a place to collect sun. And buckwheat does the same thing. T-raptor is going to come up and grow really fast, to get a big leaf up. It'll make a huge leaf so that it can trap sunlight in a crowd. Does really well in a mix. Brassicas aren't a good idea in the summer unless they're in a mix like this. Chicory, same thing. It'll go down deep. So, if this is your soil surface, your cowpeas, they'll have a root like that. A chicory or a t-raptor or some of your brassicas, they'll go straight down like this, okay? They'll go way down there. They go feet into the ground to get at the moisture, and as your nutrients start to leach out of the soil, it recaptures these and brings them back to the surface where they can be used by the next crop. Your sunflowers and buckwheat and oats, they have that kind of a deal going on with the roots. So you have different root structures, and then up here you have different heights. You got your sunflower up here, chicory, leaf, then you have your vines. They're going all over the place with leaves coming off the side. So it creates a jungle, okay? All of which is palatable to deer. Deer can put their fawns in it if they want to, if it's not too hot out there, and provide tremendous biomass for soil health and feeding deer. Now, I know that there's an argument going around that it's a good idea not to have a summer food crop for your deer so that the deer go out on the agriculture and then come back to your property in the fall when you plant your fall food plot. But I just don't subscribe to that. What I want to do is put this type of thing in the summer following my fall. So if this is in a rotation, so summer, fall rotation, if I have a nice stand of these peas and winter wheat, in a couple weeks now, it's mid-May, so in a couple weeks I could just drill right through that. And I could either terminate it by rolling it down, or I could spray it and kill it. But you never want to completely clear the plate. If I drill through this, these will fizzle out once it gets really hot. And the wheat will mature off and quit as well. And that's when this stuff will start to grow. And then when this dies back, it starts to get brown and harden off in September, then I want to drill in my fall food plot. And we'll talk about that when the time comes, what I'm going to plant. But this is what I'm going to plant this year. Now, for the secret sauce that I was telling you about, the secret is that there is no secret. Whatever works in your soil type and your region is the way you should be growing. So that's another reason to have a nice mixture, because you can find out which one of these plants doesn't quite make it. I haven't had a lot of luck with buckwheat, but I'm going to try it again. I think I was planting it too early. All these other plants I've had excellent success with, so I know they're going to grow here. I just have to get the mix right, plant them right, and then, if nature cooperates, I'll have a great food plot. And the other thing about a mix like this is that it'll build your soil. You don't want to till your soil, because when you till it, you kill it. When you have this kind of cover crop, and you keep a cover crop in the winter and the summer, you will start to build soil, and you won't believe what happens in there. You just get, you'll never have to lime or fertilize or spray again if you get this rotation correct, because you won't get, this stuff will shade out all your summer weeds, and then you'll have even some allelopathy going on, but mostly it's just that it takes up all the space, crowds out the weeds, okay, and you just won't have them. So that's about it for spring and summer food plots. And this should be drilled in at 60 pounds, 65 pounds, something like that. You can also, if you find that the deer are really hammering one of these species, then you want to up the rate next time to keep up with the deer. If you broadcast it, then you're going to have to till. You're going to have to till up your soil. And if a lot of you guys have either a rotary tiller or you have a disc harrow of some kind. So I find that if you use a rotary tiller, don't go down too deep. Don't damage your soil structure and your biota in your soil if you can help it. Put this on with a hand spreader, or a spreader on an ATV, and then go over it again with a low ratio on your PTO, and go fast. Up your gear on your tractor so that you're just kind of skimming over it and burying that seed a little bit. Otherwise, birds come in there and they eat it all up. These are all large seeds, except for the chicory, t-raptor. If you put buckwheat right on the surface, turkeys will come and eat it all. Same with oats. I can't put oats on the surface around here. Birds eat it. There's a lot of crows around. New York has, for some reason, just a ton of crows. So if you have anything at all on the surface, they'll eat it up. And then what you want to do is get some kind of roller or cultipacker and go over the top to make sure you have a firm seed to soil contact. And you can get a good stand that way. But ideally, you should be using a seed drill, even if you have to rent one, borrow one, pay a farmer to bring one and plant your stuff. Figure it out. Cover crops are getting more and more popular. More farmers are doing it. And most counties have a seed drill that's available for rent because it's their job, it's their mandate in NRCS and Soil Conservation Service or the County Conservation Service to protect soils and make sure they're productive. So they usually have one that you can rent and use. Okay, so you can play around with this. You can do your own research and pick out a couple legumes that you like. You can pick out some broadleafs that work in your region, in your soils. Everybody's got different soils and situations. You might be, if you're down in Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, this might be completely different. I think this will work down there. But if you have very sandy soils, you might find that some of these don't work. If you have heavy soils with a lot of clay, you might have problems with some of these species. But you'll find out pretty quick which ones are going to come up and do well. And then just do more of that. Figure out what works, discard what doesn't. And that's about all I got to say about that. I will put down the recipe down below. And if you want to buy some, you can buy it from me, or you can have your seed dealer try to put that together for you if you want to copy it. Just let me know if you want some and I'll order it for you and have it drop shipped over to your location. All right, well, good luck with your food plots this year, and be sure to comment down below, like, and subscribe, because there's a lot more information to come. All right, talk to you later.